and welcome to those in the gallery and those joining us online for the council meeting of June the 23rd, 2025. I'd like to commence with an acknowledgement of country. Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islands people as the first peoples of the country. We also acknowledge them as traditional owners and custodians across various lands. We pay our respect to their ancestors, elders, children and young people. We acknowledge the strength and resilience of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island peoples and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country. Agenda item 2 is apologies, requests for leave of absence and requests to attend by electronic means. There are no apologies, but Councillor Aldridge has requested to attend by electronic means. If I could just put the motion forward that a request from Councillor Aldridge to attend by electronic means be approved. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Yes,
I'd just like to put my leave in for the 3rd of July to the 18th of July.
3rd of July to the 18th of July.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. I'll do the same on the 30th of June when I'm a little bit firmer on myself.
I'll remember it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Agenda item 3 is the Good Governance Pledge, and Councillor Knight has volunteered to read that.
Wodonga councillors have committed to 1, undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the municipal community. 2, abide by the Model Councillor Code of Conduct and uphold the standards of conduct set out in the Royal Councillor Code of Conduct. 3, faithfully and impartially carry out and exercise the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in the office of councillor under the Local Government Act 2020 and any other act to the best of their skill and judgment.
Thank you very much, Councillor Knight. Agenda item 4 is declaration by councils of any conflict of interest. And just if councils could note that I have a conflict of interest of declaring one for item 9.3 and the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a general conflict of interest for item 9.4 on the agenda, and I'll leave for that item.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 5 is the confirmation of minutes, and the notes say the confirmation of the minutes will be submitted to the council meeting scheduled for the 30th of June 2025. Questions? There are none. Petitions? There are none. Delegates report, agenda item 8, there are none, which now leads us to agenda item 9.1. The Council Plan 2025-2029 and the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan 2025 and 2029. Just welcome staff to the table. Thank you very much. Just prior to going to seeking a motion, if I could just say some words of appreciation to the staff who have done a great deal of work in preparing the Council Plan and the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan 2025-29. These are the first plans presented under the council group that was elected last year. And having been informed by the 2050 community vision and also the feedback from Shape Wodonga Future, this plan, when adopted, will be our plan, highlighting our key priorities over the next 4 years of this council. Noting that the plans are aggregated under 4 themes or pillars: livable and connected communities, thriving local economy, resilient infrastructure and environment, and effective leadership and sustainable future. There are a list of key initiatives clearly articulated in this plan under each theme that, when achieved, will further build Wodonga as a vibrant, thriving, connected and resilient community. On behalf of my fellow councillors, I'd like to thank all those who contributed their feedback and helped to guide these plans for the future of our community. We have a recommendation provided by officers before us. Do I have a mover of that recommendation? Councillor Knight, a seconder. Councillor Cowan. Councillor Knight, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just quickly, I think you summed it up pretty well. There you go. Well, the council plan is attached, been over this a few different times, and I just believe that it's as good opportunity as any to get this done.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Councillor Cowan, would you like to speak as a second?
I sure would, thank you. I think this is really an important moment for our council. We're a new council largely, and this is our plan for the next 4 years, and it sets the tone for our priorities and values and ambitions. And what I'm particularly pleased to see is a clear focus on strengthening Wodonga's position as a growing regional city, with real investment in economic development, strategic advocacy, and hopefully stronger regional partnerships. The Public Health and Wellbeing Plan is thoughtful and evidence-based. It tackles social connection, mental wellbeing, active living and food security. It acknowledges the challenges we face, including the cost of living, climate change, and sets out practical goals for a more connected, resilient Wodonga. I'm very pleased to have been part of the council to bring this together and to feed upon the great work that the community did in bringing about the Vision 2050 for Wodonga. And I think we've got a lot of work to do, and it's all set out in our plan for the next 4 years. Thanks to the staff and thanks to my fellow councillors for the goodwill in working together and to put this plan together.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. I'd like to open it up to other councillors to speak to the motion or against.
Did very well.
Councillor Hall.
Okay. I'm a little bit different in review, but anyway, there's 134 emails, 12 responses, submissions through Make Wodonga Yours, 16 relevant comments on social media. It doesn't, in my opinion, reflect the broader Wodonga community. I believe as council, we receive individually more feedback from engagement with our community than has been reflected in the submissions in the report. And this is not our council staff's fault. It's more a reflection, I believe, that our community are more comfortable communicating one-on-one with elected council representatives, i.e. us councillors. In the reports, I think there are too many strategies. I also believe we try to do too much and be everything to everybody, spreading in council finances, funding and spending across too many different areas. Instead, I believe we need to focus on the core responsibilities the councils are required to do under the Local Government Act. Council does provide good services and our staff do a fabulous job with what they have in front of them. But I don't support expanding them. We should be funding them well and doing them as best we can rather than expanding. These plans put forward supporting more strategies and more plans, and I'm with the view we need to consolidate rather than expand. So, because with expansion comes a requirement of more funding and spending, and I won't be supporting the adoption of them tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors? Councillor Courtney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would like to join you in thanking my colleagues, the councillors, for putting their feedback at their time into numerous workshops, expressing their ideas and visions for the future of this council. I would like to thank the staff for putting it all together and preparing it. It was indeed a massive and very difficult task to collect all the council views, sometimes opposing, and to express them across 4 topics, and then have them carry over from council plan to a more detailed municipal wellbeing plan. So it's an enormous task, and my vote today is not on the quality of the document, nor it is on the lack of consideration by other councillors. It is based on what I believe my role and my plan as a councillor is, and what I believe I have been voted into here. So, council plan, while it does contain a lot of very good topics, advocacy point, opportunities for advocacy and opportunities and our strive for economic development, it has a few problems such as scope creep and taxation creep. I'm concerned about expanding infrastructure programs that can often justify raising rates, expanding budgets, and increasing government involvement beyond rate-based consent. Even well-intended projects risk becoming resource sinks over time. I also believe that the council plan contains a lot of ambitious goals to do with sustainability, facilitating active living, making sure people live the best of their lives, while we still fail to consider private initiatives, affordability of living and investing in Wodonga, and responsible use of our financial resources. To quote Councillor Cowan, we are concerned about things like food security, wouldn't lowering rates and making sure that we are responsible fiscally and financially would be the best way to secure better living for our Wodonga residents. I have similar concerns over municipal and well-being plan. I will add a few points such as forced collectivism versus voluntary contribution. Initiatives funding through rates compel payments from all residents, even those who prefer different allocation of resources. Enforcing specific outcomes intrudes on property rights and freedoms of individual rate payers.
15 seconds left, Councillor Courtney. Thank you.
I will not be supporting this council and municipal and wellbeing plans. Thank you. Thank you for.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Any other councillors? Aldridge, Councillor Seymour? If there,
Right of reply.
no, I know that. No, just checking that there are no other comments from councillors before I go to the mover for a right of reply. Councillor Knight.
And I'd also like to thank the staff. But I'd also like to address a couple of the issues raised by the other councillors, Councillor Hall and Councillor Quilty. We're required to follow certain acts. Local Government Act 2020, Section 90 requires councils to adopt a council plan following a deliberative engagement process, and that plan must describe strategic objectives for the council's term, strategies for achieving those objectives, strategic indicators and key initiatives. This can sometimes seem like an awful lot, but it is the community that has actually asked for a lot of these things. And myself, I do not necessarily agree with everything that's in there, but that's the community's response of the emails and engagement from people. Everyone has the chance to do this. Unfortunately, not always in the positive. We get more different ones, or I shouldn't say not in the positive. I should say that it's people's views that come across, and we try to take them on, yes. The municipal health, public health and wellbeing priorities from our draft was increasing active living, increased healthy eating, improved mental wellbeing, tackling climate change and its impact on health, preventing all forms of violence, reducing harm from alcohol, drug use, and reducing harm from tobacco and e-cigarettes. But this is also covered by the Public Health and Wellbeing Act of 2008, which Section 26 requires councils to prepare a municipal public health and wellbeing plan every 4 years. That identifies strategies to promote community health and wellbeing, is based on evidence and local data, aligns with the Victorian Public Health and Wellbeing Plan, and is integrated within the council plan where appropriate.
15 seconds left.
So I believe that we have met our criteria to meet these legislative and the acts, and I think it's disingenuous of the two councillors to say that we aren't and that we're doing something outside of that.
Point of order.
Point of order.
What's the point of order, Councillor?
The disingenuous.
You wrote that statement, Councillor Knight?
Everyone's allowed a point of view, and I don't agree with what you say.
Agree with council.
This is the same. Councillor Courtney, thank you. Revoked by Councillor Knight. Thank you very much. Thank you for your right of reply, Councillor Knight. With all councillors having had an opportunity to speak with right of reply, if I could put it to a vote, please. All those in favour of the motion, Councillor Knight, Councillor Seymour, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Goble. All those against, Councillor Hall, Councillor Quilty. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Agenda item 9.2 is the budget 2025-26, including a declaration of differential rates, levies, fees and charges, financial plan 2025 to 2035, and revenue and rating plan 25-2029. Again, before going to call for a motion, I'd just like to say a few words regarding the draft budget. Firstly, some words of appreciation to the staff who have done a tremendous amount of work in preparing the draft budget. It's a mammoth task, juggling multiple moving pieces, including 26 business units of council, all in the context of an uncertain economy, ongoing cost of living pressures and persistent inflation, with both our ratepayers and council itself experiencing this. The budget is prepared based on 6 underlying principles. One is to achieve and maintain financial stability. The second is revenue adequacy for capital funding. Third, liquidity and financial resilience. The fourth, prudent debt and funding management. Fifth, sustainable asset management. And sixth, consistency of financial management. These principles provide a foundation that best positions council to meet the current and future needs of Wodonga's community, maintaining infrastructure and enable strategic growth in a fiscally responsible manner. This budget looks to support the enablement of our council plan, which was informed by the 2050 community vision and community feedback on our council plan. I'd like to thank our community for submissions received during both processes. This task involved the balancing of the immediate needs of our community with the long-term priorities of building a regional city. It's a complex and delicate task involving competing needs and trade-offs. I'd like to thank councillors for their deliberations in this process. The budget before us, if adopted, will deliver $26 million of capital works, maintenance of the existing services and service levels, while also funding some additional initiatives in economic development and advocacy to promote investment, new jobs and attract new business to Wodonga, while also allowing us to advocate for the things our community wants that may sit outside the direct role of council, things like public transport, things like healthcare. This budget also makes provisions for several city building initiatives that, while subject to external funding partnerships, reflect our ambition to enhance the livability and the connectivity of our city. In addition, in this budget, we continue to pursue land sales of logic, further secure our financial stability and capacity to invest back into our community through asset renewal, debt retirement, and new assets where there is a compelling business case. Thank you. There is a motion before us prepared by staff. Is there a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Cowan is the mover. Is there a seconder? Councillor Seymour, thank you. Is a seconder. Councillor Cowan, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. Yes, I would. Yes, I'm pleased to adopt our budget tonight. It responsibly puts forward our 4-year council plan into action. We're investing $63.2 million in service delivery with targeted funding for things like economic development and advocacy that will support our city growth, for young people in development, youth strategy, for the community with plans to replace the senior citizen centre, and for our resilience with strategies addressing climate changes and transport. We've also proposed a $26.3 million capital works program, investing in the basics, new upgrades and new roads, drainage, footpaths, parks and open spaces. And these are the everyday things that make a big difference in the people's lives and our core responsibilities. But importantly, we're also making an early repayment of a $5.82 million loan, which will save ratepayers about $345,000 over the next 6 years. And we're adding continued efficiencies over the next 10 years while continuing to forecast underlying modest surpluses and still delivering for our growing community. Thanks for the hard work for my fellow councillors, and the council team that has supported us in this endeavour to bring about our budget and financial plan. I do sympathise with the ambition to keep rates below the cap, but the reality is that the cost pressures that are upon us are also those upon council. So I think we've worked very hard to maintain the rate rise below within the 3% cap, while still delivering those core services and planning for growth. Thank you to the community for your considered feedback. We really do hear you. I think last week was one of those points in time where I've learned a lot, and we will strive to continuously improve our processes with your feedback. And after all, that's exactly why we're here, to represent you, and I'm proud to support the budget and adopting the budget tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Seymour, would you like to speak to that as the second?
I suppose everything that Councillor Cowan said was fantastic. I really can't add anything else other than to just reiterate that while nobody wants to increase, you know, the rate, the rates, it's a necessary to get the level of services that the community deserves. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Councillor Seymour. I'm going to open it up to other councillors, and I notice Councillor Aldridge has a digital hand up. Councillor Aldridge, we're with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo the words of Councillor Cowan. I think she has summed up how I feel brilliantly, to the point where I don't think I need to add anything but give my full support for this motion.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Any other councillors? Councillor Courtney, before me.
No, I'm not applauding. I'm suggesting that other than digital hand,
All right.
also digital applause.
All right. Thank you.
Well, since I started making noises, I will continue with your permission, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, given tonight, straight after this meeting, 2 of our councillors are going to hit the road to attend a large ideological fest in Canberra, courtesy of Wodonga ratepayers. I will do my best to be really brief in explaining how much I do not support this budget. I believe that we are failing Wodonga community by misleading it, by raising our rates 3% compared to what we predicted after a very careful analysis last year by saying it would be no more than 2%. I also believe that the attempt to achieve financial sustainability through raising rates as opposed to through achieving savings and efficiencies is not worth much, and we should work harder. I already have had 3 opportunities to speak publicly in detail while exactly I did not want to support this budget and which budget lines, after going through it line by line, as I love doing, which lines scare and dissatisfy me. So I will just end here, and I will say, Wodonga, I will continue my hard work to try and make sure that we will achieve a better sustainability through cutting costs and increasing efficiencies. I hope in the future to get a bit more support from fellow councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corsi. Any other councillors? Councillor Hall.
Yes, I have to say, I reiterate what Councillor Putty said. Last council worked very hard to get the budget back to a position where, you know, we're actually we're in surplus, $3 odd million surplus. So you know that was great, and I appreciate the hard work that the council staff did in achieving that. We had budget assumption of 2% going forward, so there's the increase of now looking at 3%. So the extra 1% there. There's extra spending on employment staff. So you know, look, we were able to achieve a surplus in estimates for the budget going forward last year. where has a lot of that gone, I wonder. So I've spoken to this 3 times over the last, the last few months in the lead up to this budget. We did do assumptions on 2.5%. Our first rating assumptions earlier on, and we achieved a balanced budget. So I can't see why we can't stick with that. So I'm still with the view that I support a 2.5% rate rise. If we take the 250 out of the 3% rate rise, 250,000 out of that reoccurring spending, we can give our ratepayers a 0.5% reduction in their rates. It may not be much to some, but it does add up in some people's eyes, and compounding effect of that over the years will be felt. In my opinion, there is room to adjust the budget by 250 without any reduction to our present services. There are many in the community who've spoken, would prefer to have lower rates and not increase services. So, I mean, I'm supporting and reflecting what often I hear from people that speak to me. We even had some feedback that was sent to council on whether they supported more services or whether they supported a 2.5 rather than a 3% increase. And there were quite a few that supported no increase to services and the lower rate rise. So it's a bit of a split out there, but people are doing it tough, and I think we need to be responsible, and I support that view that we keep our costs as low as possible. So I won't be supporting the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? As Mayor, if I could make some closing comments before we go to the mover, Councillor Cowan, for right of reply. There are many things in this budget that I like, and I certainly do appreciate the complexity and difficulty in balancing competing agendas. But there are some initiatives in this budget which I am very much for, which I think justify the stance of the recommendation. The Economic Development Initiative, the Advocacy Initiative, the Youth Strategy Development. I see these as being key initiatives in terms of the growth of Wodonga, and hopefully, resulting in more income for council, but not from our existing ratepayers, but from new ratepayers that are attracted to come to Wodonga, either to live, work or invest. Hence, I'll be supporting this motion. Councillor Cowan, I'm going to move to you as right of reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm still very pleased to be saying that we are adopting a very responsible budget. I think we've struck a good balance here between fiscal responsibility and continuing to support the city growth. Such a wonderful place to live, Wodonga. It is, and we need to continue to support its enhancement and the opportunities that exist in Wodonga. With what we can do as a council, this is so important for our city. The previous council did take a very deliberate decision to address financial sustainability, and I applaud that work that they did. And as a result of that consideration, the very strong recommendation was that we consider taking up the full rate cap in every opportunity, and that's what we've done this year. There were discussions had by this council through many workshops about $250,000, and there were trade-offs made. And there are always trade-offs made. There were cat and dog registration fees. There were considerations about how we spend that money. And the focus on economic growth and developing the future of this city was seen to be an issue of primacy for this new council. So I absolutely applaud the work that we have done. I know that we can do better in response to the community feedback. I know that we can improve our processes leading into the budget, and I know that we can be a more responsive council. But I'm very grateful for the hard work that we've all done collectively, along with the team here, the staff, in delivering this budget tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan, for your right of reply. there's nothing else, I'm going to now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Councillor Knight, Councillor Seymour, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Goble. All those against? Councillor Hall, Councillor Quilty. The motion is carried. Thank you very much, councillors. Agenda item 9.3, as noted earlier, I have a general conflict of interest as an associate to development. Proposed development is a very close friend of mine, and I'll be leading for this item. And this item will be chaired by the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Cowan. Thank you very much. Yes. Interest as an associate to development, proposed development is a very close friend of mine, and I'll be leading for this item. And
if you wouldn't mind just stopping your play there, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. We have a speaker with us tonight, Ms. Elizabeth Edwards, who will speak on behalf of the VGCCC application on behalf of Huon Hill Club Ltd, trading as Club Wodonga. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I understand that you have the terms of the presentation that you had for us tonight, and the timing will be very strictly held by the CEO, so he will let you know when we get just before the time's up. So,
certainly. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. So I am the solicitor for the applicant for the application at Club Wodonga. I firstly note that council's retained an expert in relation to the financial considerations of this application in REM plan, and also utilised the expertise of the 3 council officers to undertake an assessment. I'd firstly like to note that a town planning application is currently running parallel with the gaming application. Both applications are required. Last Thursday, the applicant responded to a very lengthy RFI from the planning team. And I note that there are some contradictions between the information that's being provided to the planning response as well as the gaming application that will be considered. Well, it's for consideration tonight. So that's the first point I'd like to raise. The second point I'd like to raise is in the reports of council that council is considering tonight, there's been numerous references to community feedback or the lack thereof. And with due respect, I think there's a little bit of a difference of opinion in relation to that community feedback. I confirm that there are letters of support which have been provided directly to the VGCCC from both individuals and community members. I am led to believe that these letters of support, or all of them at least, have not been provided to council. And my submission is that council can probably not adequately and appropriately consider or gauge community feedback without these. The report refers to concerns of 38 out of 40 residents as negative to the impacts of this application, which relates to electronic gaming machines, and extrapolates that to 95% negative community feedback. I note that the town planning application, which includes a gaming component, has been publicly advertised as required. I note that the gaming application itself has been advertised both on social media methods of Facebook as well as Instagram, no less than 3 times. I noted there were 16,000 followers on Facebook, 3,635 on Instagram, and they've all had the opportunity to view these posts and make submissions either to council or to the commission. So we would suggest that there's been at least a relatively decent amount of community feedback opportunity. And I believe that there is some consideration that should be given to that as opposed to what is in the reports that the council is relying on tonight. I note that the officer's report identifies more disbenefit than benefit and therefore a negative impact, but there's discrepancies in the evidence that the commission is relying on between issues such as density, vulnerability, and there's a big difference between new expenditure in the reports that the council's relying on and the reports that the Commission will be relying on from the applicant. Further, the Commission has provided the applicant with some proposed conditions. So they're items that would be put on any decision of the Commission. And it does seem that Council has suggested some conditions themselves. And I would have thought it would be a good opportunity for the Council and the applicant to agree to some conditions in case the Commission approves it, regardless of any opposition by Council. There's been a recommendation made that Council makes a submission but doesn't secure representation. Now, if the meeting tonight approves this recommendation, one of three, even though you don't have a barrister at the hearing, the authors of those reports are still required to respond to any anomalies, queries, discrepancies, questions from either the applicant or the Commission. So that is an interesting position, obviously, to be in. And it would be on that basis that I would suggest that if there was an additional period of time, having only received these papers at the end of last week, or the report at the end of last week, to consider some of those discrepancies, that would be beneficial for both Council and for the applicant. Overall, and notwithstanding my comments about a potential extension to lodge a submission that is not in or lacking discrepancy between the evidence provided to the Commission, I would suggest that Council, well, I submit that Council doesn't oppose the application on the basis that there'll be no social or economic net detriment, and that's the requirement under the Gambling Regulation Act. And the evidence of the applicant ought to be relied upon rather than the Council reports due to the discrepancies at hand. I'm happy to answer any questions, but they're the submissions I put for Council's consideration.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Councillors, do you have any questions they need to relate specifically to the presentation tonight? Any points of clarity or points of further consideration? Yes, Councillor Quilty.
Elizabeth, thank you very much for your presentation. May I clarify, do I understand correctly? Firstly, have you had the opportunity to examine the report that has been made public as part of the agenda? And am I right in my understanding that you suggest not all possible options have been presented to Council, such as, for example, the option to place a submission with VGCCC, not objecting but supporting but not providing representation? And if that's correct, could you please elaborate a little bit further?
Certainly, thank you for the question. There obviously is an opportunity for the Council to support, but to be very honest, that very rarely happens because you do have a policy in place. So I'm very mindful of that, but that is an option. The other option that potentially hasn't been considered in the report, and yes, I have viewed the reports having been made available late last week. That's why I'm making these comments today in light of the review of those documents, is that there is an opportunity for an extension to lodge the submission of Council, where Council can work further with the applicant to resolve any issues that they either may not agree on, to propose conditions that might be considered appropriate if a decision by the Commission was made to approve the application. So in this case, what has occurred is that we haven't had an opportunity to speak about the findings of the Council with the Council officers. We often have that opportunity. And I do believe that we could potentially have better evidence, if I can be so bold, from the Council put to the Commission if that was the case, because at the moment we do have some discrepancies with issues, as I mentioned, such as density, vulnerability and expenditure or new expenditure.
One more question, please.
Thank you.
And thank you. Also, clarification. Did I understand correctly that you referred to some letters that were provided in support of the initiative from the community directly to VGCCC, and that you would be able to present them to Council officers or the councillors for consideration, given the opportunity?
That is correct. Now, I would be I would provide them. I have a number of them. I have just over a dozen at the moment that apparently there are others that the Commission can forward to me. I don't know the exact number, but they ought be provided to both sides in any event, but they've gone directly to the Commission to start with. I understand one is from Boys to the Bush. There's another one from another local business. I can't tell you all the details of them, but I do think it would be prudent and ideal for council officers to consider those potentially prior to making a submission.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Lucia, did you want to make a point of clarity?
Thank you very much, Ms. Deputy Mayor. Just point of clarification to councillors that I have circulated an email tonight regarding a few questions that the applicant has made to assist in informing the decision. Some of the information provided by Ms Edwards is different to the advice that we've received directly from the VGCCC. So I encourage you to have a look at that advice, and our staff will be happy to respond to that further once we consider the report. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Are there any further questions?
A question to Sarah, please. This is a bit different, but sorry. I'm sorry, I misunderstood this bit. I haven't had sufficient time tonight to examine the. Thank you. To examine this material, just because my from about 4 o'clock my schedule was a bit frantic. And do I understand correctly that we're going to consider all of this further, and how are we going to vote on the recommendation if there is further information for us to consider? What's the plan?
Madam Chair, if I may, Councillor Quilty, the matter hasn't been put before council yet, so we don't have a mover and a seconder. This section is in response to the applicant's representative asking questions. Certainly when council moves the motion on the matter, I'd be happy to have the staff expand on those matters and clarify the points of difference between the advice the staff have received. So we'll work through that bit by bit, and that provides some transparency to the public as well about what the additional advice that we've received today, given today's been our only business day to get that advice from the VGCCC. Thank you.
So may I just clarify, the recommendation in front of us is not what we are, potentially not what we are suggesting to vote right away, but our aim today is to come up with a recommendation that encompasses all.
Thank you, Councillor Coulty. We could take on board the recommendation. We could also suspend standing orders and have this discussion to bring in this further information as we make available to us later in the day and consider that. And are there any further questions for Ms Edwards? No, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation today. I'm not sure if you're intending to stay with us or
leave the meeting.
Yes, all right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, great that you could be here with us. Thank you. All right, councillors, we do have a recommendation before us, and the recommendation was that the council make a submission to the VGCCC objecting to the application submitted by Huon Hill Club Ltd, trading as Club Wodonga, for the approval of the premises for gaming with 75 electronic gaming machines at 48 Reid Street Wodonga as per attachment, and 2, does not secure representation for the council at the VGCCC hearing. Do I have a mover for that recommendation?
If we don't, this doesn't get through, we can suspend standing orders, and we have to put this through to suspend standing orders for that.
Or do we suspend standing orders first?
That's
We have to put the motion first. And if the motion is elapses, we can foreshadow an alternate motion, and then we can suspend standing orders.
I'll move a motion that we take option 1, the council note the findings from the assessment of the proposal, but not make the submission to the VGCCC.
That's the alternate motion.
Yes.
Considered. Have a recommendation for that motion. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hall. Councillor Knight, would you like to speak to the recommendation?
I'd like to suspend.
We have a seconder for suspending standing orders. All right, all those in favour? Standing orders suspended. Thank you. I'll open the floor for questions or comments.
If I may, Deputy Mayor, so our officers are saying that we can't make this submission past this date. We can't ask for a delay.
Yeah. Madam Chair, if you'd like the staff to speak to the advice today, so it's transparent for the public. Yeah. Can ask the staff.
Thank you. Yes. The council has received an email later in the day, about 4:45 today. So if I could ask the council officers to, I'm not sure who's going to take it. Councillor Hogg, Officer Hogg, would you be happy to run through the advice we've received later today?
So the close of submission is today at midnight. Any request for extension of a submission would have had to have been in advance, well in advance, and basically would have to be for exceptional circumstances that are unavoidable, out of ordinary or unexpected, and have to relate to council's capacity to provide the submission. And so the date that's been set for the submission by the VGCCC when they provide notice to council, we have a very strict set period of which we have to respond to advise that we may intend to put a submission in, and then a final closure date.
Just ask the question, clarification in the presentation made by Nisi, which she suggested there was an opportunity to defer that submission based on the potential of having a discussion between council and the is that your understanding or not?
My understanding that we would have had to have secured that in advance of today, and it would have to be in exceptional circumstances that had prevented council from undertaking its draft of submission.
Any further questions of Councillor Aldrich?
I just want to confirm the motion that Councillor Knight just put forward and how it differs from the recommendation.
Councillor Knight, would you read your recommendation?
Certainly. So the recommendation I've put is that council note the findings from the assessment of the proposal, not make a submission to the VGCCC, which is the opposite basically of the.
Oh, okay. So it was not to make a submission.
Not to make a submission. Yes, that's correct.
Thank
you for clarifying.
Sorry, I was just going to ask another point of clarification. Ms. Edwards said something about the VGCCC getting direct submissions for, and I'm wondering if they were at all made available to the council staff.
Mr. CEO, Officer Hogg.
So there is an opportunity for during that submission process for them to go directly to the VGCCC. That is the process is that is not shared with council unless we make a submission and then we become a party to the submission. So those provided directly to the VGCCC will not be provided to us unless we elect to make a submission to the VGCCC. Then they become made available to us as a party to the submission.
Thank you. Councillor Aldrich had her hand up. I'll just go back to Councillor Aldrich.
Thank you. Probably just a quick question more on the governance side of it, I think. If we get given the submissions that were in favour of the EGMs from the 12 applicants plus more that were flagged. Is there any opportunity for us to find out or investigate further what was actually said to these organisations to be able to gain their support? I have heard some commentary from the community that have made submissions being positive about the EGMs, that they didn't actually realise what they were fully supporting at the time. So I guess it's just, does council have an opportunity to scrutinise those submissions further, or is that just not appropriate?
I'll start. Any scrutiny of any submissions and material provided to the VGCCC will be undertaken by the VGCCC. That is their role, is to look at both sides of this argument and to assess the material before them with the council that they have, and they will assess that accordingly.
That's a no.
Just in the notes here, it says the potential for Wodonga's rate of EGMs per 1,000 adults will rise from 6.2 to 6.5, which is higher than the Victorian rate of 4.7. I wrote down at the briefing it was we were at 4.3. Just want to confirm which one we're at. Notice.
The report in front of it should be the correct amount.
Yeah.
So
my paperwork, to go back, was that currently our density rate was 4.3, but 75 machines would take us up above 6.1, 6.5.
So it might have depended upon which population number we were talking about at the time, whether it was a 2025 population or 2027.
So
in the projection is that in 2027, at adult population of 35, 807 will result in a 6.2.
So just further that one, and on that, our policy is to stay below Victorian rate of 4.7.
Correct.
So we're already above that rate now, so we've already failed that policy. Or is that more because of the way the numbers have been?
The policy came into place in December 2023. We have not had, this is the first EGM application we've had since that period.
Any further points or any other questions to the officers?
Just a question, and we've covered it before, but I think it's worth bringing up again about they're applying for 75 gaming machines. You know, the possibility of negotiating them down. That's not. We're not able to do that. Is that the case?
My understanding is that any change in conditions like numbers of machines would be a new application. What we have been advised from the VGCCC is to assess exactly that application that is online with no further material to it, exactly what is provided on their website. And as a result, our modelling has been undertaken on the 75 EGM. I think that from our understanding that may be a new application, but that would be a clarification for the VGCCC.
Thank you. Given that we have a health and wellbeing policy, if we go with the recommendation before us that Councillor Knight has put up, and we just note the submissions, but then don't note the feedback, but don't make a submission to VGCCC. What are they taking into consideration? Are they taking into consideration the health and wellbeing of our community, or what are they actually looking at when they decide a yes or a no?
They will look at the overall benefit and disbenefit in a broader social context, is our understanding. That said, it will also be wholly dependent on the material before them, and then the representation of those who may substantiate the material and witness that.
Okay, thank you.
I may just clarify very clearly there. So what Councillor Knight has moved is that we don't put a proposal in.
Yeah.
And therefore the VGCC, even though it's available to the public through our process, won't be available to them as part of their process for assessment.
Right. Thank you for clarifying. Yep. Okay.
CEO, can I just ask a point of clarification? If this motion, if we come back into business and this motion is lost, can another councillor foreshadow alternative, including me? All right. As chair? As chair, that's what I just asked.
I understand.
So you wanted to foreshadow now? Or do you wait for the councillor wants to? Probably ask the other councillors first, but
Sure.
there is an option for them to do that.
Councillors, are there any other councillors considering foreshadowing an alternative motion?
Yeah, I would like to foreshadow. Do I have to say? what it
No,
is?
I'll go out and stand. Okay. Go back into general business. Has everyone finished questions and comments? I move that we go back into,
Hello. So I just also wanted to say that I would foreshadow the recommended motion as well. I don't know if that's what Hannah's motion would be, but I would be looking at that.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. And Officer Holt, did you have a point that you wanted to make there?
No, it's okay.
I saw you with your hand up. I just wondered if you missed something important or relevant to the discussion.
I was just going to clarify that further to some of the other questions raised in regards to legal representation, council does have the opportunity to elect to have representation or not. If we elect not, we can still provide a written submission, and it's okay to do so without that legal advice or representation, but it will not be tested, but it will be submission, it will be part of the submission, but not as evidence. I just think that clarified the point. Thank you. Sorry.
May I? Sure. I don't suppose we could estimate the cost of legal representation to ratepayers?
$36,000.
36,000. Is it like a rough figure or so just a double? Yeah. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, councillors, is that clear? Okay. So can we reinstate standing orders? So Knight, Seymour, all in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We had a motion before us moved by councillor Knight, seconded by councillor Hall. All those.
Speak to the motion.
Yes, of course. Would you like to speak to the motion, councillor?
I would like to speak to the motion. This is a really a big thing at the moment because there's 2 points that affect me in this decision. Is one is the moral responsibility of gambling, and the second one is that this is business that we already have others participating in our region across the border an awful lot. There's things in here like your mobile phone can be used for electronic gaming purposes these days, and I think my personal opinion is that to stop a business from being able to conduct its trade based on some of the reasoning is really not within our remit as a council. But at the same hand, looking after the health and well-being of our community is, and that's where I had my moralistic dilemma, which is why I put option 1 forward. And I will hold no grudges anyway, but no disregard to anyone if they voted down either way.
Thank you, councillor Knight. Councillor Hall, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I second it, not well, mainly for debate purposes, because I've been in two minds about this myself. I've been swinging widely on either side. And I'm looking solely, not at any planning application, solely at the gambling application. I'm not keen on gambling. I think it is a scourge for any sort of gambling for that matter. But I also am a person that believes in freedoms and freedoms of choice. And I know some people, when they have addiction, that choices go out the door. But there are other people that are very, they make sound choices and, they want to have a bit of a gamble and put a little bit in and they're careful about it. And so, that's where the dilemma comes into it. And, I think we're eroding too many of our freedoms and this application deserves the right to be applied if it's seen to be fitting the criteria where the VGCCC stand with it. So it is one of those things council has sometimes got to make a hard decision on. We've got 3 other venues in Wodonga that do have them, and for us to turn around and say, well, they can have them, but you can't, even though it was a prior decision a long time ago. If it doesn't get supported, Albury's 10 minutes away. Like, there's other choices. It's not going to, I don't know if it's going to really make the impact of not supporting it huge, because people do have other choices. But I'm one of these people. I think we've eroded too many of our freedoms. I think I'm going to support the motion that's been put forward.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors like to speak to the
Oh,
motion?
Councillor Aldrich had her hand first then.
All right, thank you. Councillor Strange.
Thank you. I just want to say that it was very interesting tonight to have the solicitor come forward and talk about the amount of positive submissions that they had that had been sent directly to the VGCCC. I just want to note that I did not receive one single positive email. I did not have one single positive conversation about this proposal. In fact, I was met with a lot of concern from community, and I think we do have an obligation to consider the organisations that may have extra demands put on them if we, don't objectively look at the health side of it as well. The argument of there are other venues available for people to go and gamble, yes, there is, but they were prior decisions, and we have an opportunity here to maybe draw a line in the sand and, say enough's enough.
Thank you, Councillor Aldrich. Councillor Seymour, excuse me. I beg your pardon, Councillor Quilty. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much, councillors, for your debate. I would also like to thank many members of the community who contacted us via email or personally, councillors. As councillors, I think we to some small extent live in our own information bubbles. The constituents who approach us know our standing and approach us for with a standing that is similar to ours. I think that there can be a slight distortion, but that's why there are 7 of us working together representing our sectors of the community. Thank you, Councillor Knight, for putting up your motion. I will support it, but unlike you, I do not have a moral dilemma here. I do fully 100% recognize that ludomania, which is the fancy word for problem gambling, is an issue, just like many other addictions, such as addictions that cause food disorders, addictions that are caused by alcohol consumption, tragic outcomes of careless driving, etc. We address them individually.
not we as council, but we as a society, address them individually as family members, as community members, and sometimes as organizations if we are part of appropriate organizations. We are not banning food. We are not banning driving. We are not banning alcohol. They are part of our long-standing culture and survival. I believe that banning or putting a limit to the number of gaming machines that we have in the city will not change anything. It is the choice, and not just the choice of every individual to gamble or not to gamble. If there are no, I've never seen a situation, not that I've ever used a poker machine. I don't have that addiction. My addictions are elsewhere. I've never been in a situation where I saw no poker machines, all poker machines occupied, and if only there were 75 more, then we would indulge, but otherwise not. So I don't think it will help, and I think it will harm banning those 75 machines, because for people who do suffer from ludomania, it's easier to go maybe with a family member and have a drink and a meal and a couple of control games on the gambling machine. Let us not, thank you. Let us not sweep under the carpet the problems by just pretending they do not exist or banning things. And let us not tell our businesses, long-standing businesses, what to do with their properties and with their rights to business owners, but work together with them. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. While I agree that we don't want to be telling people how to live, I think we have a responsibility to, given this is the first submission to us to make this decision, and we have a health and wellbeing plan to look after our community, I don't see why we would support offering a choice that has a negative impact on them. So, and also given the fact that if we don't make a submission, the VGCCC won't have my understanding, if I have this correct, won't get the benefit of having the information that we've been given. So for that reason, I won't be supporting the motion.
Thank you, councillors. I'll put the vote.
Did you not want to say anything?
I don't say anything.
You're right on Friday.
Thank you.
So once again, on the right of reply, just going through, we've covered across the health and wellbeing. We're already in breach of our policy according to what the statement is down here. So 6.2 is higher than the Victorian rate of 4.7. We will need to stay under that. So, but in also saying that there is currently a cap for 304 machines in Wodonga. We're only actually using 150 machines, so that's 49% of Wodonga's allowable cap, which is set out by the state government, obviously. The submissions, in regards to submissions from the positive side, disregarding hearsay of what other things can, we can't actually make a decision on what any of the positive submissions were because we haven't been supplied with those submissions. So we can either make a positive assessment of them or a negative assessment of them because we haven't seen them. You know, as Councillor Quilty and Councillor Paul said, just across the river, there's an awful lot of machines, and I think they're running at 21.6%. Or sorry, they're not percent of the 26.1 of their EGM per 1,000 adults. So a heck of a lot higher, and they we would be stopping a business that we've already allowed into Wodonga. We haven't had any trouble putting in and allowing extra liquor stores to come, even though we have a problem with alcohol and violence. So I think you know, it would be really not very wise of us to put forward a submission when we don't actually have all the information. And yeah, that's why I've put forward this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. So put the motion to the vote, please. All those in favour? All those against? Favour? Councillor Knight, Councillor Coulty, Councillor Hall. Against? Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Seymour, Councillor Cowan. Against. Foreshadowed an alternate motion. Councillor Seymour.
I'd like to put up the recommendation that the council make a submission to the VGCCC objecting to the application submitted by Huon Hill for approval of the premises, the game 75 electronic gaming machines, and it does not secure representation for council at VGCCC hearing.
Thank you, Councillor Seymour. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Seymour, would you like to speak to the motion?
I think the VGCCC need to have all the information, and this is one of the ways that they will get that full report if we make the submission, and have all the information then before them to make that decision, given they make the decision on the like a collective health and wellbeing. I think that I suppose given that the density might be already over, that's no reason to kind of go, well, let's have it open slather. This is the first submission that's come before us, and I think we've got a responsibility to our community to do the right thing by them.
Thank you, Councillor Seymour. Councillor Aldridge, would you like to speak as a seconder?
Yeah, just echoing the sentiments of Councillor Seymour, and perhaps just adding, just going back to what I said earlier about the submissions and conversations that I've received. There was nothing in favour of this proposal. If anything, even the additional social media commentary, I did not see anybody in the community jumping up and down saying, yes, let's allow it. It was actually the opposite. And, with our health and wellbeing plan in place, we do have a social responsibility there to the community. Thank you.
Councillor Aldridge. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Coulty. Thank you very much. Possibly not to the motion, but to the debate. I mentioned the information bubbles. However, I would also like to add that the most effective way for the community to vote or to make their representation is with their feet, not to go to the premises they don't want to favour. And honestly, if such a large part of the community does not want extra gaming machines, why not just ignore them? The venue will go broke. Thank you. Any other councillors like to speak?
I'd just like to add to the debate too, and I acknowledge what Councillor Aldridge has said about submissions, and I've received a lot over not supporting. But having said that, I haven't had any submissions, but I've spoken to a lot of people that have given me another perspective of it, and that's where I've been swinging back and forth, because I was on one side and now I'm thinking, well, yes, as I said before, there are two sides to it, and it is a hard decision to make. And I can't see why the submissions that we have received could not be sent to the VGCCC privately as an individual for them to give their submission and feedback to. So, anyway, that was just a suggestion to people that have sent submissions through to councillors.
Thank you. I'll just speak very briefly. I support the recommendation to lodge an evidence-based submission to the VGCCC. I think the gambling harm preventative policy makes it clear that we really do have a statutory responsibility
to uphold community health by addressing gambling-related harm, and if the evidence should be considered impartially by a third party, and I think we should trust that process, and by putting forward the clear evidence that we have that there are vulnerable groups in our community that could be subjected to significant harm from gambling. So with that, I will put the vote back to the mover. Beg your pardon, Councillor Seymour.
Yeah, I suppose thanks to Councillor Quilty and Councillor Aldridge for raising it as well, but I needed to say that the feedback that I had received formally through emails and whatnot were all against. So, you know, while we might get, we might only have those submissions where people think, oh, well, I'll let Councillor know because she'll agree with me. I am still a councillor for everybody, and everybody's had equal opportunity to send feedback, and it has only been to disallow it. So I needed to add that as well.
Thank you. So we have the recommendation by the officers as the motion moved by Councillor Seymour. All those in favour? Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Seymour, Councillor Cowan. All those against? Councillor Quilty, Councillor Knight, Councillor Hall. And this vote in favour of the recommendation.
Carried.
Thank you, councillors. So item 9.4 is application for community sponsorship and donation program, the Man Black. We've got a declared conflict of interest with the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. I occasionally walk with the man walk, so I'm declaring my conflict.
And walk away.
Thank you, councillors. Agenda item 9.4. We've got a recommendation before us of the report. Could I have a mover as recommended? Thank you, Councillor Knight. Seconder? Councillor Hall, thank you very much. Councillor Knight, would you like to speak to the item?
I would, and it's not just because I'm a man, but I do believe that it's one of the probably least financial is men's health, and especially men's mental health. The walking with people you're able to have a quick chat to about how you're feeling and what's going on around you is very, very underrated. I've suffered from depression, and it is debilitating. It is one of those things where you're too strong to have it. It's just the way you are, and the more and more you talk to different people, the more and more it comes out. I've had this discussion most recently with some friends about how much your workplace plays on your mental health as well, and if you're not supported by people around you. So I have no hesitation in recommending this donation for, I reckon, a really worthy cause.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Councillor Hall is the seconder.
Yes, just a brief bit on it. The Man Walk Wodonga supports regular walks from two key community locations on Tuesday 5:15 p.m. in Junction Square, and on Friday at 5:45 a.m. The aim is to build on the success of the Man Walk, expanding its reach to encourage more men to participate and access meaningful, low barrier opportunities for connection, wellbeing and peer support. Now, this is a $900 donation. donation, which isn't a large amount. And I agree, men do have more communication problems than I think women do. We're told to shut up if we talk too much. So, you know, this encouraging men to talk. And when you talk with your peers, you often, it feels good, and you often bring out issues that you may have or want to discuss. So I think it is a good opportunity to encourage that sort of communication with men. Yeah, so I'll support it.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Seymour, but I think Councillor Aldridge might have had a hand up first. So I'll go to Councillor Aldridge, who's got a digital hand up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to first of all start by acknowledging that I think the sentiment behind this organisation is something fantastic, but I think we do need to draw a notice to the fact that we passed a budget today that, denied a lot of other community organisations funding. And I'm just concerned slightly about the optics of what that looks like, perhaps given as well the staff conflicts that are coming from this organisation. A social media deep dive led me to their Instagram and Facebook pages. It does seem like it is a very, very small group of perhaps 3 to 5 people that participate in these walks. It's quite small, and I'm just hesitant to be giving out money to community organisations when there are other community organisations out there that we've recently just said no to. And it's really hard because, everybody is worthy, but it does seem like a very small organisation, and I do think that is something that does need to be considered. In the report that we were given, it said it was a very small but committed group. It probably would have been nice had they disclosed the actual amount of members. I genuinely believe that is something that needs to be considered.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Seymour.
Thanks, Councillor Aldridge. I was unaware of the number, so that's something that will be taken into consideration. On that, I actually would also like to just say that men's mental health is really, really important, and the more that we can encourage men to just chat and because women do it really well, and for men to just have that opportunity to chat amongst other blokes and can only be a positive. So I want to commend the group, regardless of which way it goes tonight. Thank you, and yeah, for opening up the channels of communication within our community.
Thank you, Councillor Seymour. Councillor Quilty. Sorry, I don't know who. I just thought Councillor Quilty first. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, councillors. And also I would like to extend my thanks to the participants of the group. I think it is a great initiative. Not only should men have more opportunities to vent and to talk to each other and to share their problems and carry each other's burdens. Walking is also a great tool for sustaining mental health. And many times when I feel anxious or overwhelmed, I go for a walk, and it really, really helps. And more people, male or female or else, should be encouraged to do that. I live in a male-dominated household. It means not only that I spend too much time in the kitchen cooking, it also means that I'm very well aware that men have sometimes things that they probably can't quite explain or can't quite talk through, and they sometimes they need not just to talk to each other about it, but to be silent next to each other about it. And a greater way than walking or working on something. I don't know, I can think of one. However, I usually vote on community grants and donations, not based on how worthy they are. Just as Councillor Aldrich said, everybody is worth it. Every community initiative is great. And the amount is very small, but I will vote here on principle. I wish this group all the best, and I hope they grow from 3 to 5 person to maybe 300 or 500 and do really well and receive a lot of private donations. But on this case, based on principles of council domain and council remit of spending ratepayers' money, I regretfully will vote against the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Any other councillors? Councillor Carroll.
Thank you. Not for a minute do I question the value of this charity, and I really do thank Councillor Knight for his courage and vulnerability in talking about his personal challenges with mental health. I think whatever we can do to support men's mental health is commendable and something that this council should consider. I think most members of the community will know, however, that I was the initiator of reviews to the community grants and the budget processes. And nor did I question the value of the submissions to those. So in good conscience and in support of those reviews, I will not be supporting this donation tonight. On the very same night that we adopt a budget that denies those community submissions, I want to be clear, it says nothing about the value of this particular charity, nor the small amount or the fact that this was assessed by a panel of staff members who unanimously agreed that this was a worthwhile cause. I don't doubt that for a minute. I just believe that we've undertaken to commit to doing better, to assess our submissions for discretionary funding, and we should consider that in a more holistic way into the future. So we're supporting the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Just before I wrap it up, Officer Hogg, would you like to respond to any of the questions that were raised, either about number, budget, or any other issue there?
Unfortunately, in regards to the number of existing participants, we have not been provided that, but we know the agenda is to grow and to grow that age gap. So that is an agenda behind it. In regards to the budget, this application proposes to come out of this year's financial budget, and the sponsorship and donations fine within that existing budget. This is not for next year, this is for the current financial year.
Yeah, as articulated in the paper, thank you. In relation to the staff conflict issue, do you mind addressing that? I was raised by Councillor Aldridge, and the CEO's excused himself from this item, but did you want to talk about the process by which this came to council?
Okay, so normally if in the present policy, if it is under $3,000, it is sent to CEO for a CEO delegation, and anything above that would normally come to council. Because there was a conflict in this scenario, this is why it has become before council. And a sponsorship or donations request of this normal amount would not normally come, but it is because of the conflict of interest scenario.
Thanks. Good question, clarification, Mr. Mayor.
You can.
Officer Hogg, is there any reason that this didn't go through our community grants process?
Sponsorship and donations is a separate policy with a separate process. It has its own application and procedure. That said, in the new financial year, when councillors are looking at the community funding application process, I would propose that they also look at this in that discussion as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions to Officer Hogg? If not, thank you, Officer Hogg. I think in the context of the $900 being in this year's budget, not next year's, in the context of this being a sponsorship, not part of the community grants, and in the interest that this is about growing the event, I'm likely to be supporting this motion. And I'd also like to acknowledge Councillor Knight for sharing his story there. If there are no other questions or comments, I'm going to put the motion. Oh, sorry, right of the reply to Councillor Knight first.
I do find it surprising. We just talked about the VGCCC and how it affected our community, and here we are worrying about $900 for mental health, for whether it be 3 people or whether it be 300 people. I find that really quite strange. When they've asked for a donation, not a sponsorship as well, the number hasn't been provided to us, obviously. And, you know, if we do a deep dive on a lot of different things, if we did a deep dive on a lot of submissions and stuff like that, I think we'd find out that they're all connected in some way for, once again, our previous discussion. So I don't think that's really something to look at. I really think we should be looking at this as one and only thing is that it's a group of people wanting to do something together. It's community wellbeing, for mental health. It's one of the few things that's probably male orientated. You know, even the men's shed these days is shared around with the women's shed. And I just, I'm actually a little bit disappointed in some of the things I've heard tonight in regards to the fact. Yeah, anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. With that right to reply, I'm now going to put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Councillor Hall, Councillor Knight, Councillor Seymour, Councillor Goble. All those against? Councillor Cowan, Councillor Quilty, Councillor Aldridge. The motion is carried. Thank you. We can invite the CEO back in. Right. Thank you. Now brings us to agenda item 10, reports for noting. There are none. Agenda item 11, reports for information. There are likewise none. Notice of motions, none. Is there any general business under agenda item 13? None. Agenda item 14 is urgent business. I understand, Councillor Hall, you've got an item you want to raise as urgent business. If you want to just quickly talk about that before we put it to a motion to accept it as urgent business, and then if that gets up, then we can speak to the motion.
Yes. Look, I'm with the view to put up a formal position on the emergency services and volunteers fund levy that the state government is imposing on councils to collect. The statewide, especially in regional areas, stand on this has been astronomical. People are hurting, farmers are hurting. I think it's important that us as a council have a formal position, so we can either advocate on behalf of our regional and other councils. It's actually some metropolitan councils as well. So I'm with the view we should put up. I want to put this motion up, and so it gives us a formal position on where we stand with this collection of this levy. I know our mayor has been just recently in the Border Mail speaking about it, but we haven't really had a formal position as council put forward, and so that's what I aim to do. And this is in regards to also the Yarra Council have they adopted a position last week at their council meeting, and I think we need to be supporting them, and I think we need to get more councils to get on board and support their position, because I think there's many out there that would do that. So it's.
Councillor Hall, did you want to add anything in relation to why this matter is urgent in particular?
The reason I believe it's urgent is because I think we need to get on the front foot as soon as possible, and nothing in this motion is controversial, I believe, and I believe that getting our position out there and formally adopted, the sooner the better is the best thing going forward to then be able to advocate properly on behalf of the regional people and other councils.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. So I'm going to seek a motion to support receiving this as an urgent business item. So all those in favour of accepting it as urgent business?
Second. I'll second.
Yeah. So second to Councillor Knight. Thank you very much. I'm taking that I was the mover there. So all those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Hall, would you like to speak to the motion?
So I'll read the motion out. So that the council authorises the mayor to write to the state government expressing council's opposition to the Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund, and council's collection of the levy. 2, includes a message with the rates notices clearly indicating that the ESVF is a state government levy that is being imposed on councils to collect on behalf of the state government, and that the council does not support councils being forced to do so. 3, receives an officer report on the estimated amount to be collected across the Wodonga municipality and the financial risk that could arise from a significant number of property owners who may refuse to pay the levy. And 4, reach out to other councils and interested groups to collectively advocate against this levy.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. As the mover of that motion, could I have a seconder? Councillor Knight. Councillor Hall, do you want to speak to the?
Yeah, so look, I sort of just outlined before why I want to put this motion forward. Look, I've had so many people in the community that are outraged with this levy. It's been in the papers, the farmers, it's affecting everyone. And I think when I note that it should be on the council rates notice, we should notify them of how much this will amount to, and you know, it's a state government levy. Some people don't really acknowledge that, and if they're not made aware of it, then they think it's the council implementing that extra cost onto them. So it is, in my view, it is a grab, state government grab of money, and they're using councils to collect it. I think if they want to put a levy on, they should collect it themselves. It's a burden of costs, and the outrage in the community is huge, and the effect it has on especially our farming community is appalling, especially we've been going through droughts in south, in Victoria. It costs to running farms and what have you these days is just escalated, and it's just another burden that we don't need to put on to our farming properties, but not just our farming, to each and every property owner. It's going to affect everyone. So whilst the Victorian government may have monetary problems, they should be looking at other areas and not burdening the ratepayers and the councils, because if we get any ratepayers that refuse to pay it, the council has to pay for it out of our own pockets. So it's not a great levy. So that's all I can say.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hall. Councillor Knight is the seconder. Would you like to speak to him?
Yeah, well, as Councillor Hall said, she summed it up pretty well. It's a big cash grab from the state government. They've basically taken the funding that they had for emergency services and taken that and spent it somewhere else, and then decided that they'd create a new levy to pay for that bit of money. So it's a little bit of ball under the cup sort of scenario where they're moving it around. Also, as Councillor Hall pointed out, that if people refuse to pay, it's actually not council will be paying, it'll be the ratepayers that have paid. And it just out of your rates, it will come out. So that budget that we just did, regardless of whether people supported it or not, 3% won't cover us if we have to give half of that money to state government to make up for it. And once again, as Councillor Hall said, if the state government wants the money, then they should be the big bad wolf themselves and not pass it on to us.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. I'm going to open it up to other councillors. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I do agree with the previous speakers that this levy is very unfair, and not just community in Wodonga, but from talking to councils from other municipalities and reading media and social media, communities are outraged all across Victoria, and they're right to be so because the levy is outrageous. The only other thing that's also outrageous, not the only, the other thing that's also outrageous is making councillors collect this levy and take the a hit for that if the levy is not paid. I think it's a great motion. Thank you very much, Councillor Hall, for putting it up, and thank you, Councillor Knight, for seconding it. The only change to it I would possibly entertain is at point 2, adding the contact number of the head of the office of head of the current state government for anybody who doesn't feel like or who feels like objecting to this levy to be able to contact them directly. But yeah, that's probably just being cheeky. But otherwise, I fully support.
Thank you, Councillor Conley. Councillor Cowan.
Thank you, Councillor Hall, for putting this motion up. It is timely. Look, we did put a motion to the State Council meeting of the Municipal Association of Victoria. It was unfortunately it was heard on the day following the passage of legislation through the upper house. So that impact was lost on the government. I think what we are seeing is a lack of engagement. Many of us were blindsided by this process. It lacks transparency in the ways in which the fees and rate variation, the consideration of the levy has been applied. There has been some concessions by the government in the introduction of rebates. It's not enough. It's simply not listening. This did replace the fire services levy. We know that, but how this money is going to then flow into our emergency services is not clear. The government seems to be not listening. There are a number of councils lined up and we can be heard. We can be louder collectively, and I stand fully behind this motion by Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Any other councillors? If not, before going to Councillor Hall for right reply, if I could just say a few words. If there's ever a case of the state government not reading the room, this is it. Not only have they not read the room, they haven't read the state. I'm not aware of one council of the 79 local governments in Victoria that are agreeable to the principle of this in the context of local government being the revenue collector for the state government when they have a revenue collecting office called the SRO. The timing of this is appalling in the context of the worst drought in 100 years in Victoria. The uncertainties that particularly small regional and rural local governments are going to experience in the event that some of their ratepayers object and don't actually pay the SVF. The state government's got the right to garnish local government's revenue to make good on what it hasn't received here. And it could potentially have massive implications to some of our small local governments who are on very, very fine budgets. There's also a lot of uncertainty regarding whatever money is raised, how that may be spent in our region versus leaving the region. We've done lots of media on this as a council, advocating not just on behalf of Wodonga Council and our ratepayers, but also some of our neighbouring regional councils who will be disproportionately impacted by the SVF. And as Councillor Cowan mentioned, we did have a resolution to put a motion to MAV, which we did, but unfortunately the timing there was poor, given that that was put to the State Council the day after the legislation passed. Notwithstanding that, I know that MAV is actively advocating on behalf of the many, many councils that voted for that particular motion. I too, Councillor Hall, thank you very much for bringing this up. Understanding that, the rate notices are due when, CEO, in September or August? September. So, this is an urgent matter, and I'll be supporting the motion. Would you like a right to reply?
I appreciate the support from other councils, but we've all been on the same page with this. It's and I don't think, I mean, putting forward that MAV did get lost. And that's why I think it was really important that I put this forward. And in also the light that our Deputy Mayor and Mayor are off to the conference in Canberra, the local government conference in Canberra. So there could be some discussions and advocacy go on there. So I think it's actually a good time to put it forward. So yes, I'm happy to go for a vote. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. There's nothing else we're going to put motion to a vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Hall. It's unanimous. Thank you. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you for that. Agenda item 15 is confidential business. There is none. Likewise, agenda item 16, confidential urgent business, none, which then leads us to the closure of the meeting. If I could declare the meeting closed at precisely 6:45 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance. Thank you, staff. Thank you, those in the gallery and those online. We'll be heading off to Canberra.